tell, there's no hint of blackness in him at all. His name is Levi. Coffin. Yeah, an interesting last name. Estimating that 3,000 fugitive slaves passed through his care. The Underground Railroad's Grand Central Station. Coffin did not keep records, but estimated the number to be around 3,000. When questioned about his motives for aided fugitive slaves, Coffin once replied,
"This is Africa, the cradle of mankind's birth, where powerful kingdoms arose with stories of worth. A youth-filled land, the youngest population, with diamonds and cocoa from its fertile foundation, exemplary leaders, their legacy told. Nkrumah, Mandela, their spirits bold. From Johnson Sirleaf's Liberia, where freedom lies, and her first female leader, so wise. Let courage and dreams unite as one for a brighter tomorrow where greatness is spun. In this beautiful, colorful, and friendly domain, greatness awaits, where hopes shall not wane, where tales of triumph weave a tapestry. Welcome to Today in African History."
so what really was the Underground Railroad? Hopefully, I'll get this question answered before the end of this video in less than 10 minutes. So stay with us on this one. Now, this man here, yes, he's not black. He's not African American. You can tell there's no hint of blackness in him at all. His name is Levi Coffin. Yeah, an interesting last name. Levi Coffin. Born on this day, October 28th, 1798. He sadly passed on the 16th of September, 1877. But this guy was a hero. He was an American Quaker. I might add a European American Quaker. Of course, I'm sure you know why I said European American Quaker. A bit tongue-in-cheek. He was a Republican. He was an abolitionist, a farmer, a businessman, and humanitarian. An active leader of the Underground Railroad in Indiana and Ohio, some unofficially called Coffin the president of the Underground Railroad, estimating that 3,000 fugitive slaves passed through his care. The Coffin home in Fountain City, Wayne County, Indiana, is now a museum, sometimes called the Underground Railroad's Grand Central Station. Check this out, guys. So this is the Coffin home. So Levi Coffin's home, called the Underground Railroad's Grand Central Station. Levi Coffin was born near what became Greensboro, North Carolina. Coffin was exposed to and came to oppose slavery as a child. His family immigrated to Indiana in 1826, avoiding slaveholders' increasing persecution of Quakers, whose faith did not permit them to own slaves and who assisted fugitives. Now, I'm going to pause here, guys. To the best of my knowledge, the Quakers do not have a different Bible, or do they? If you guys know, leave a message in the comment section. But to the best of my knowledge, they don't have a different Bible. Now, if their faith, which I think is Christian, did not allow them to own slaves, why did the faith of the Christian church, Christendom, allow them to hold slaves, or did it allow them to hold slaves? Were they misinterpreting scripture, or were they ignoring scripture entirely? So I'm going to continue with this story. So it says his faith did not permit him as a Quaker to own slaves. They were also persecuted as Quakers, so he could empathize with slaves, with African American slaves. In Indiana, Coffin settled near the National Road, where other Quakers in Wayne County, Indiana, near the Ohio border. He farmed as well as became a local merchant and business leader. Coffin grew wealthy from its various businesses, assisting neighbors and travelers in the important transit corridor. Coffin became a major investor in and director of the local Richmond branch of the Second State Bank of Indiana in the 1830s. Richmond being the Wayne County seat. His financial position and standing in the community also helped supply food, clothing, and transportation for Underground Railroad operations in the region. Historians have estimated that the Coffins helped approximately 2,000 escaping slaves during their 20 years in Indiana, and an estimated 1,300 more after their move to Cincinnati. Coffin did not keep records, but estimated the number to be around 3,000. When questioned about his motives for aided fugitive slaves, Coffin once replied, "The Bible, in bidding us to feed the hungry and clothe the naked, said nothing about color, and I should try to follow out the teachings of that good book." So, if you were wondering what the Underground Railroad was, this is your answer. Now, this page is courtesy of the National Park Services of the United States government. So, question, what is the Underground Railroad? Now, Harriet Tubman says, "I was the conductor of the Underground Railroad for 8 years, and I can say what most conductors can't say. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." How fascinating. Harriet Tubman, 1896. I don't think that answers your question yet. Watch this, guys. I'm going to go a bit further down. The Underground Railroad, the resistance to enslavement through escape and flight through the end of the Civil War, refers to the efforts of enslaved African Americans to gain their freedom by escaping bondage. Wherever slavery existed, there were efforts to escape. At first, to maroon communities in remote or rugged terrain on the edge of settled areas, and eventually across state and international borders. These acts of self-emancipation labeled slaves as fugitives, escapees, or runaways, but in retrospect, freedom seeker is a more accurate description. Many freedom seekers began their journey unaided, and many completed their self-emancipation without assistance. But each subsequent decade in which slavery was legal in the United States, there was an increase in active efforts to assist escape. So this is what the Underground Railroad map looked like back in the day. So 1830 to 1865? Yes, 1830 to 1865. My eyes are not as good as they used to be, guys. So this is what the Underground Railroad network looked like. So it wasn't a real Underground Railroad. It was just escape routes by African American slaves, people who were sick and tired of being slaves. A lot of them escaped to Canada. So if you're American or Canadian, I'm sure you can recognize this map of the United States of America. I think a little bit of Canada as well, the northern part of the map. If I am right. Anyway, this is 99.9% United States of America. So the red lines there are the escape routes that the slaves used to escape their slavery and escape bondage from their masters. So on that note, folks, we have come to the end of today in African history for the 28th of October. We've learned about what the Underground Railroad was. It wasn't a real railroad. It was just a metaphor for escaping slavery. Thanks for joining us today. If you're here for the first time, this is what we do every single day. We learn about our history as Africans all over the world. Some of us live in America and have lived for generations through slavery from our great grandparents, African Americans, the European Africans as well, or African Europeans who have settled in Europe through the generations. Of course, Africans on the African continent, the Africans in Asia as well, Africans in South America as well, whose ancestors settled there generations ago, and of course contemporary Africans who have settled in more recent times. We want to find out more about our history, because we do have a history, we do have a rich history, a history of positive influences. We can learn from that history and become positive influences ourselves. Thanks for joining us once again, and we shall see tomorrow, October 29th. Bye-bye.